Hi, everybody. We have 40 participants.
Mhm.
Jamie, I'm going to turn it over to you to get started.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jamie Nelson, part of the WikiTree team, and my official title is the Community Technology Assistant. Mostly what I do is I gather bug reports and improvement requests and gather improvement requests that people make, bug reports. I do testing whenever we're about to release new features, and I also do some programming part of it. And then one of my other things that I do is I'm one of the leaders of the WikiTree Apps project, which is a group of independent developers that use WikiTree's API and database stumps to create apps for the WikiTree community and the genealogy community at large to use to help them with their genealogy. There's two other people that are part of the WikiTree Apps leadership. One of them is Kay, who I'll introduce in a little bit, and then Ian Bacall, who is the main programmer for the WikiTree Browser Extension, who isn't here today. So yeah, that's a little bit about who I am. Marie wanted me to give a shout out to a couple of people before we start. The first is Betsy Coe, who is one of the WikiTree team, who does the new user Q&A Zooms. And she was kind of the inspiration for this one. And then the second person is Chris Whitten, who's the owner of WikiTree, who really supports the independent developers and wants us to use WikiTree data to create things for the community. Actually, most of the tech team on the WikiTree team started as app developers. So Alesh, Steve, and I all were just app developers, and we got onboarded to the team. So yeah, so that's a little bit of an introduction. Before I introduce our actual hosts, I just wanted to give a little bit of an update on the redesign. So if you don't know, WikiTree has been redesigning the front end of the site to be a little bit more modern. We've been working all month on getting it converted. We plan to have the rough conversion done at the end of the month, and then we're going to start inviting some members of the apps group in to make sure that the tree apps and the browser extensions can integrate with it. That will start probably next week, because next week is February. Our first host, who's part of the apps project, is Greg Clarke. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi there. My name is Greg Clarke. I'm a retired math and computer science teacher, and I joined WikiTree about 5 years ago, I guess. And I've done a number of apps, including the fan chart, the DNA confirmation app. The super tree is one of my more recent ones, and there's a number of other ones there as well. So it's been fun working with people and creating the apps and dealing with WikiTreeers. I also am one of the regular hosts on the Saturday roundups, and you'll see me from time to time in other places I pop up. And I'll turn it over to there.
Hi, I'm Kay Knight. I'm a retired software engineer. I did mapping software and interpreted scripting language. I joined WikiTree 2017. I was thinking, wow, there's a lot of profiles that aren't sourced. There's got to be a way to write something to find those. So I only did one app, but it shows up in apps and tree apps and the browser extension. That's me, just an old coder.
Well, hi, everyone. I'm Murray Maloney. I joined WikiTree about 5 years, just over 5 years ago. Worked hard trying to figure out how to do things in WikiTree for about 3 years, copying sources by hand and doing all that stuff. It was really a strain on me. My background is in technology. I started as a technical writer around 1977, and I got into computer software probably around 1980. And I worked with a number of different companies, and including publishing software and markup languages and operating systems. And it turns out that Kay is the only person I've met on WikiTree who's ever used any technology that I worked on, and she built an XML schema apparently. Um, so I was a founding member of the HTML working group, the XML working group, and the XML schema working group under the W3C, and I worked on all of those. And so I was really happy when I found WikiTree, and it was um, using HTML and also that strange wiki markup that I've since learned how to use. And then I started working with Ian after Chris Whitten suggested to me that I might be able to help there. And so I started working on documenting the WikiTree Browser Extension. And then I turned my focus to Greg and his tree apps, the fan chart and the super tree. So I've worked on those, and now, oh yeah, I've been working with Betsy on the new user Q&A, and so this really arose out of that new user Q&A. We want new users to learn how to use these apps and not be afraid of them. And so we thought that having an opportunity once a month to see us and talk to us and ask questions would help along the way. And so now I'd like to turn it over to Rob Pavey, who is the author of WikiTree Sourcer, and he can introduce himself and give us a little demo of how you use Sourcer. Rob,
Hi,
over to you.
I'm Rob Pavey. Yeah, I'm a retired software engineer also. I joined WikiTree, I think, in 2020, and started by bringing my tree over from Ancestry that I've been working on for many years using Gedcom, and found that I didn't like the profiles created by the Gedcom tool, so I wrote a tool called WikiTree AGC, Automatic Gedcom Cleanup. So that was the first extension I wrote, and that's now part of the WikiTree Browser Extension. Yeah, most of my career I've worked in C++ on video games and things like that. So I had to learn more about JavaScript and HTML and so on. And then after that, I wrote the WikiTree Sourcer extension. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and give you a little demo of that. Okay, so this there's a free space page, WikiTree Sourcer. You can find that pretty easily. Just Google WikiTree Sourcer, and this is kind of a landing spot for anything to do with Sourcer. Gives you a brief description. So Sourcer is a browser extension, and it helps you search for other WikiTree other genealogy sites and create citations for them, basically. So from this page, you can watch a video of an intro demo for the extension. So I won't try and go through a full demo because you can just watch that video for that, but I'll demo some of the salient points. So starting at the WikiTree profile, this is a profile I created a while ago. I think it was one that came in from my Gedcom originally. So this is someone who's like 5 degrees from me. This 5 degrees I'm pointing at here shows you, like for the CC 7 degrees, it shows you how far away someone is. And this is part of the WikiTree browser extension, which is separate from the Sourcer extension, which I'm demoing, but I wanted to give it a shout out. If I go to the husband of this person, this you can see there my great granduncle, and that's also part of the WBE, the option to display this information. So standard. If you're not using any extensions, you wouldn't see this. Let's go back to Margaret Dickens. I've removed all the biography and sources from this so that I can demo adding some sources. So let's start with the basics. What's a browser extension? So if you look up here in the taskbar, there's these 4 icons. These are all to do with extensions. One's the WikiTree B, one's the WikiTree browser extension, and one is WikiTree Sourcer. Now, if you've installed the extension, you don't see these. It may be that you don't have them pinned. It's a little different between different browsers like Firefox, Chrome, and Safari, but on Chrome, you won't see this icon here until you pin it. This is the pin. So if I turn that off, you see it goes away. And you always want to have this pinned when you're using Sourcer. It makes it a lot easier. If you really yeah, if someone told me they installed one of the extensions and they couldn't see how to use it or where it was or anything, there's this line here, manage extensions, and takes you to another page. So for Chrome users, this tells you all the extensions you have installed. If it's not here, you don't have it installed. And you can turn them on and off with this button here. So if there's something showing up on a WikiTree page and you're not sure, is that standard WikiTree or is that from the browser extension or something, you can always just turn off the browser extension and refresh the page. And if it goes away, then it was part of that extension. So back to this icon here. So this one in brackets is the WikiTree Sourcer icon. And WikiTree Source is a little different from the WikiTree Browser Extension in that the browser extension tends to change things on the page, whereas WikiTree Sourcer, pretty much everything it does, you get to through pressing this icon and using this menu. This menu is super customizable. I've been working on this more just recently. And what shows up here, you can customize a lot, but by default, it's going to show you only a certain number of sites to search because showing too many of them would take up too much space on the menu. And it tries to be smart, and it's like, because this profile's in England, it's showing me things like UK, these UK sites, whereas if you're on a US profile, by default, it wouldn't show you those. So it lets you search things, and then it has below the search, there's other things you can do on that page. It varies depending on the page. So I don't have any sources on this profile yet. This person was born in 1897. So I might decide, well, I want to see if I can find her in the 1901 census when she'd be 4 years old. There's lots of ways I can do that. I just want to mess around a bit to show you how things work. So I could just say search family search for anything to do with this person. And it'll open a page. I guess one thing I should have said is really what with the WikiTree Sourcer extension does is it saves you typing. Basically, you never really have to type anything in if you're using WikiTree Sourcer when you're searching and creating sources. So you can see it's gone to open the family search site, and it's filled out a search with all the details it can think of or can find about Margaret. So it's got like her name, but also her married name. We don't have parents on this page yet, but we have, like where she was born, married, died, her spouse's name. So that's searched. Sometimes giving family search too much information can make it harder to find things because family search has a fairly weird search system. So in this case, it's found a couple of people who aren't the right person. It's found the right person in 1911, and then a bunch of other things that aren't right. So if I wanted to specifically look for the 1901 census, you can see this little chevron next to family search. This is a very important feature of Sourcer, and perhaps a little too subtle, but it lets you do things. It's basically a submenu, so it lets you do more detailed things. So if I want to search family search specifically for the 1901 census, it'll do that, and you can see here it's filtered the results, so it's specifically searching a collection. Sourcer knows about a certain set of collections, and it knows what their IDs are on family search and Ancestry, Find My Past and things, so it can be smart about things. In this particular case, it doesn't find anything, but that's on purpose because I wanted to show you another feature. I think I could actually get it to show it up if I deleted some of the information, like the spouse's name and things. It might be confusing it, but I wanted to show that a feature of searching between sites. So if I go to Ancestry and say, search for the 1901 census there, so here it's filled out a whole bunch of stuff on the left. And Ancestry's search I find is a little better. Even though they mistranscribed her name as Merck House instead of My House, it's still found the correct entry. And maybe because some user has kindly corrected this kind of transcription. So we have the 1901 census here, but what I wanted to show is not only can you search from WikiTree pages, but you can search from like Ancestry to other sites. So now I'm on the Ancestry census, I can say this new menu item showed up on the submenu here. Search the same collection for the same record on, I think, did I do that right? Did I do family search? Yeah, family search, search the same collection. And now we find it on family search. So often that's a nice feature of searching from one site to another, because if you can't find something on family search, you might be able to find it on another site, and then you can search family search from there, and it'll, because it's just including the specific information for that record, it might show up. So, okay, so we found a census record here. Now, you could press this button here to create a citation. Now, a lot of people like to do that to cite family search, but Sourcer can also generate a citation. And it gives you three options. You can generate just an inline citation with the ref tags, or a narrative with an inline citation, where it's going to like construct a starting narrative line for you. Or you can just build a source citation, which is what I call it when you, a non-inline citation, one that you're just going to put with an asterisk below the sources line. So in this case, I'm going to create a narrative citation. You can also build a set household table showing all the people in the household for that record. And I have an option set to actually do that automatically when I build the citation. That's totally optional. So now I've created a citation. What that does is it just puts it in the clipboard. So I'm just going to do Control V or Command V, and I pasted it in. Let me preview. So what that did is it created this. This is what I call the narrative. There's lots of options to like what you want to go in this narrative, and it's very much a starting point. It's just to stop you having to type in the place of the the location and the date and everything. You can customize this as much as you want. Then it's automatically generated this household table, which I like, but some people don't, but that's an option. And then it's generated this source citation. And so the source citation is linking back to the family search record. It tells you she was 4 years old. She was daughter of in the household of Henry Myhouse, who's her father. And if we look back at the edit box, you can see what it's created here. You can see it's using the template to link to family search, which wouldn't happen if you just use the citation button on the family search site. It wouldn't do that, which is kind of the preferred way. There's a lot of things that are customizable. Like I like to have these little labels here, like 1901 census. It just makes things clearer for me when I'm looking at the list of sources, but that's totally optional. So there's, with this this record that I cited here on family search, you can see that the image isn't actually available on family search. If you have a Find My Past subscription, you can view it. But it would be nice for anyone to be able to view the image, if they want to check the transcription. So you might want to create a citation from Ancestry as well, because that has a sharing link. So, but I don't want to generate the household table again. So in this case, I'm actually going to turn that. This is the WikiTree Sourcer options. You can see there's a ton of different options on the different categories. So in this case, I don't want it to automatically generate a household table when I generate a citation, because I've already got one. I'm going to turn that off. Go back to the Ancestry version of this I'm just going to create an inline citation. I've already got a narrative. And I'm going to go into edit mode, and I'm going to put that right here after the family search citation. And let's preview that. So now we can see it on the narrative line. We have 2 inline citations. We go down here. One of them is to family search, and one's to ancestry. And the nice thing about this is if someone who doesn't have any subscription can come here, click on this ancestry sharing link, and if you'll see something like this. If you've got the Ancestry subscription, you can view the full record with this button, but if you don't, at least you have the image here. But you might say, I can't read that because it's very blurry. Even if I zoom my whole screen, it's too blurry to read. But there is a way to view the whole thing. It's kind of well hidden by Ancestry. You have to open the image in a new tab and then edit the URL. But the WikiTree Sourcer extension provides this button here. Go to full size sharing image page, which will let you view it at 100% resolution. So we've created a couple of citations. How are we doing for time? I wanted to show a couple more things. We could create a lot of, like we could add, it's not just family search and ancestry. We could go to the GRO and create a birth registration citation and things like that. If I do actually have a profile for this person on Ancestry in my ancestry tree. If I go back to the 1901 census, you can see it's saved. It's already saved to my ancestry tree. So let's go to that profile. So this is her on Ancestry. One thing I wanted to mention was this is a feature of the WikiTree B extension. There was something added recently during the Hacktoberfest by Jeff Crew, but I'm finding I like it a lot. And what it's telling me is that these people already have WikiTree profiles. And up here, this person has a WikiTree profile. And if I click on this button, it will take me to their WikiTree profile. And it's telling me that the parents do not have WikiTree profiles yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one of the parents. But while I remember, I'll go back to change that option back to generate tables because I like them. So why don't we try and add the parents of Millie into WikiTree? So I've researched this guy, the father, pretty thoroughly and gone through all the hints in Ancestry and added all the sources I can find. So there's a button on the menu here called Save Person Data. So I'm going to save everything I can from the Ancestry profile. It's going to save that all the way in just local memory within the extension. And it can take a little while because to collect all the census information, it has to make a lot of requests to Ancestry. So now let's, well, I'll go ahead and save what I have done to this profile so far, adding sources. And now, since I'm the owner of this profile, there's actually these buttons here that I can use to add a father. So I'm just going to say, I want to add the father of this person, creating a new profile. And this is where I can use all that information I saved away. So rather than having to type in all this stuff or individually copy paste all this stuff, I can just go to the menu and say, set the fields from the person data I saved for Henry John Miles. And I saved it 44 seconds ago, just so you don't get mixed up with one you saved accidentally a few days ago. So it's filled all that in, and we can continue. This is someone else in America. And it's also filled out the whole biography with all the tables and everything. So all I need to do is proceed, create a new profile. It's already actually saved it. It just goes into edit mode automatically. So you can see this whole profile was created with the information from WikiTree Sourcer. So it's filled out the the birth and death. It's created a biography. These are the narrative lines, so it's created a narrative for every source. It's created an inline citation for every source and a table. Not all the table, some of the tables, things like the occupation weren't transcribed on Ancestry, so you can fill those out yourself. And if we look at the citations, you can see it has all these citations. Now, you might not like the format of these citations. I like to have some kind of white space in here. So there's kind of a line break here and a line break here, but that's totally optional. And so I'm gonna check my list to see if there's anything else I want to mention.
Rob,
Yeah.
it's Greg here. There's been a couple questions in the chat that I think now would be a perfect time to address, if you don't mind.
No, that's great.
So the first one was from Karen Contrath, and after the first time when you did a copy from Sourcer and you showed the table, her comment was, how do you know where to paste all that jibber jabber in the box? Because it looks like, for someone who's not used to seeing that type of code, I think
Okay, well, perhaps I could show that here. Like, so you can see there's this guy was born in 1835. Okay. Well, let me go back to.
Yeah, I think it was Margaret when you were demonstrating that first table.
Margaret.
Yeah.
So basically, once you go into edit mode, you have this edit box, and you have to get used to this stuff. But so you can see here that there's the biography heading, and I guess you just if I do a preview here, say I want to add her birth registration. So I know our birth registration should come before the census. So I could go and generate a birth registration from the GRO, which is here found. The great thing about the GRO is it tells you the mother's maiden name.
Nice.
So I'm going to create a narrative with a citation. So here, I come back here and I'm in this edit. So I want it to be in the biography after this first line, but before the census. So you just have to find the right place. And then I'm just doing Command V or Control V on PC. And you can see where the cursor is. I want to have a blank line there. So it is it is confusing for people, I think, when they first look at this, because when you do a preview, all you're going to see is that, and all of this is markup. It's an inline citation that ends up getting moved to the end. What some people find easier is to turn on the enhanced editor, and that colors things in, so you can see everything that's in the ref is now gray, and it colors links differently and things. So that, for some people, that makes this easier to edit. You can see where the beginning and end of the refs are easily. And you can see the table there. Anything that's kind of markup, like this table markup, is colored differently. And there are some options in the WBE to change the colors that this uses. So some people will use like bright red to make the markup really stand out. The only downside of I guess there isn't really too much of a downside. Some things don't work in the advanced editor. When I was very first starting to develop WikiTree Sourcer, I thought it'd be cool to, rather than just putting things in the clipboard and doing Control V, I'd have something on the menu here to paste your result into the current position. But I tried for probably a week to try and make that work with the Balance editor, and I couldn't make it work. So I decided to use the clipboard system.
Just go, simple. Okay, thank you. I think that explain. I think that was a great demonstration. Plus another venture into using the feature to find another record. Anne Fiordalisi had a question about using personal data, and you just did. That was before you did the demo, so it's like she was reading your mind.
Okay.
I know Anne is here, so I guess Anne, I'm hoping that Rob's demonstration answered your question about that.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Perfect. There you go. You answered one question without even knowing it.
There were other comments made about the position of the tables, and Rob didn't specifically mention it, but I'll point it out. You can arrange to have that household table appear directly after the narrative. You can have it appear with the citation in the sources, or you can copy it separately and paste it wherever you want.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's this option here that I was switching back and forth. You can say no tables, have it appear after the ref in the biography, which was what I was doing. Or you can put it after the sources line by embedding the table within the ref tags so that it shows up as part of the inline citation. Or there's this other option where you could include, if you wanted, some people like to put all their censuses at the end in a separate section. So what you could do is say you include it in a citation ref. So I think I hardly ever do this, but let me try it. So in this case, where was my citation? Lost it now. So here we are on the same citation. If I create a citation now just I maybe I think build a household table now. If I remember this right, I don't do this very often. And now if I went down here and had I could create a section here called census. This is how some people like to do it, and then paste this in here. And I think that worked. No, that didn't work. Maybe you have to build a citation. Maybe confusing things here. But there is an option where you can get it to show up, create the table and a citation in a different format. No, that's not it. I forget now. But there is a way where you can just create separate tables and link to the citations and put them in a separate entry. Any other questions?
None that I could see. Murray, did you see any others, specifically Sourcer? There have been other questions about other tech things, but not Sourcer that I could see. But the chat's been going fast too.
Okay. So is that do you think that's enough time on Sourcer? There's other features I could show, but I don't want to spend too much time. I think you're muted, Murray.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. I am, or I was. So yeah, I think that was good. I think that was very good. Thank you, Rob.
Okay.
We've got a lot of people. There's 49 people.
That's excellent.
Well, next, I'd like to move on to Kay. Now, Kay is responsible for BioCheck, and we might not realize how important BioCheck is in the WikiTree ecosystem. We create a profile, we look down at the bottom when we're about to save it, it says, oh yeah, this looks like it has sources, so we just carry on. But BioCheck is good for so much more than that. Okay, please
Okay.
tell us.
All right, let me try and share my screen and see if this works. I may lose you when I get done.
We'll let you know.
Well, let's try this. I'll try my desktop. Okay. Can you see my desktop?
We saw your doggy, and yeah, and we see a home folder.
Okay. So let me open my browser.
Giles Orlando Burke.
Orlando?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that you can use Sorcerer, but you don't have to use tables. A lot of the stuff that's in this profile was done with Sorcerer. And you can see the citations from Ancestry, from Family Search, and so on. So Rob mentioned that you can customize what you're doing with Sorcerer, and here's an example of a profile that was, a lot of the sources were done with Sorcerer. Some were not, some were done by hand. The maps, for example. So if you go, I gotta move this out of the way. If you go to WikiTree and move this out of the way too, go to the help menu, go to help. It brings up the help. Scroll down to apps, click on apps, and you find a list of the apps. And you scroll down and you'll see BioCheck. So now you know how to find BioCheck.
For some reason, we're not seeing that.
You're not seeing this screen?
No, no, we're still seeing the sources on the profile for Burke 1339.
Look, it
Now
looks
what do
like
you see?
you only shared the tab or the.
Let me stop the share.
Mhm.
Share screen. It should. Okay, let me just share this tab. Can you see this?
Right.
Okay, this is BioCheck.
Yep.
Okay. I'm currently logged in. If you're not logged into the apps, it will ask you if you want to log in. You need to be logged in to see private profiles. So there's a lot on this screen. And the upper left portion is what? This is what you want to check. So this is set up to check profile. And this is the right-hand side is what you want to see. The buttons let you control what's going on. These two lines right here give you a live update, and then your results will show in this table down here. This, let's see if this, oops, that wasn't what I wanted to do. That took me to WikiTree Plus. Go back. And now I can't go to, can you see my tab now?
We are now on BioCheck.
Okay. All right. This menu comes up in the way. I meant to click the help button. The help button takes you to the BioCheck help. So there's your answers. You might have to read a lot. I tend to be wordy. So say I want to check profile. The default, you can put any profile ID in there. The default is to check 5 generations of ancestors and 2 generations of descendants. And I'm going to go ahead and do that with a detailed report style details, up to 1,000 profiles. So it's going to go gather, and it doesn't show me anything because it didn't find anything. If I put a phrase in to search those profiles, then it will find me some, because I had a lot of ancestors who were farmers. So it will show me that they're sourced, that there's no other issues, but it will also show me how many sources it found, how many inline ref counts. So that's pretty handy. You can also check your watch list. Notice that these options over here on the left are going to vary depending on what you decide to pick. You can check your watch list. You can check what you've done for challenges. Have you participated in a challenge? Would you like to see I did 33 profiles as part of the Sorcerer's Challenge. If I report all profiles, I can see what's there. I can get a summary report. It's more interesting to do this with something that's got problems. How many of these are orphaned? I was working on probably random profiles. So I can go, let's only look at open profile. I can go find something to source. I'm not going to report all. So here's random profiles. Then it's just a random number. So Samuel Houston Hart has sourced, but he has lines between sources and references. Because all he is a GEDCOM import. And it looks like nothing in that GEDCOM. Somebody wanted to see how to use AGC, the automatic GEDCOM cleanup. So since we're here, we might as well do it. He doesn't have any locations. Jane doesn't have any locations. Ida doesn't have any locations. But there's no sources. So we're gonna go ahead and do that one. So BioCheck random can find you things to work on. Now Susanna Brown Clemo is missing the references tag. That's a formatting issue. BioCheck, in order to see if they're sources, has to look at the formatting of the profile. So it's a side effect. Here, will is supposed to be a subsection with 3-level heading instead of a 2-level heading. Other thing you can do with BioCheck is search anything you can search for in WikiTree Plus. If you haven't explored WikiTree Plus, there's tremendous number of things you can do. Let's say you want to look at people that were born in 1877. So I can go out and check up to, and you can control how many of these you're going to do. So it went out and looked at just randomly. Here, this one doesn't have a biography. You can sort on any column. This is a really good example of a profile that BioCheck doesn't think is sourced, but it is sourced. If you look at the sources FAQ, there is enough information to go find that source. You can find the source for her. So this profile is not unsourced. It just needs some formatting. So there's a ton of things you can do. You can do a GEDCOM. For example, let's just do 500 profiles. So anything you can search in WikiTree Plus. And then you can now go click on WikiTree Plus, and that's the same search, the same criteria that you just did there. And when you do a WikiTree Plus, you can look at the results in BioCheck. And that's going to take you back here. Now, what you're seeing here in this report of the issues like this one is the same thing you're going to see in the browser extension when you move your mouse over the Save Draft button. So if I go to Richard Pace and I go to edit him, I'm not going to because it's preset. The same thing is going to show up, and this guy's pre-1700. The pedigree resource file is not a reliable source, so it's going to show that. Let me get out of this guy. And in the tree apps, several of the tree apps also have the capability to show you a BioCheck report, and it's the same thing. that you would see?
And
Question?
notably, yeah.
There's a lot to explore, and it will take you down a gazillion rabbit holes.
That's true.
If you could cite that user ID, the WikiTree ID, and Greg, if you could open your fan chart
Okay.
and show us how you can access BioCheck from the fan chart.
Okay, sure. There was a question when you were showing off the AGC, the automatic GEDCOM cleanup. That's right. That's the C first.
That's right. Yeah.
Someone asked, Ginny asked where that came from. Now, is that automatically there, or is that part of the WikiTree browser extension?
Browser extension. That's part of the WikiTree browser extension. If the profile has stuff in it that AGC thinks it was created from a GEDCOM import.
So it won't necessarily show if you've got something that wasn't a GEDCOM. Like
Right.
if it's a profile you created yourself, you may never see that button. Okay. And then Anne Fiordalisi mentioned that you talked about WikiTree Plus, but a number of newts. And I know we've obviously got Glenda just joined this weekend, so she may not be familiar with WikiTree Plus. So do you want to give a brief description, or do you want me to give a brief description of what? You go ahead.
WikiTree Plus is a copy of the database that you can search and find stuff on, basically. One of the things I started out with, I showed you how to get to the help for apps. You can find the browser extension, I think a Sorcerer, BioCheck, and WikiTree Plus underneath apps.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's a good description of WikiTree Plus. It's amazing.
Yeah, I guess I would describe it as it's a copy of the whole WikiTree database. Just the public profiles, though. Actually, private profiles aren't included in the WikiTree Plus database. But because it's a huge database, it allows you to do really specific queries on it, so you can find almost any subset of profiles that match what almost any criteria you can think of, based on dates or locations or categories or a number of different things. And if you want more information about WikiTree Plus, the first Wednesday of every month, I host a session with Alesh, who's the programmer of WikiTree Plus, and the first Wednesday of February will be the next one. So it's 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So join me and Alesh then if you'd like to learn more about that.
Can I add a couple things about WikiTree Plus?
Oh, please, yes.
The first is that it's only updated once a week. So if you search for something that you just edited, it may not show up until I don't know the exact time it's updated, sometime Sunday night, I think, but it takes like almost 24 hours to process or something like that.
Right.
Because basically Alesh gets a copy of the public data from WikiTree and then runs a whole bunch of like queries and stuff against the files to create these reports that you can search. He also does WikiTree Plus also provides suggestions. So if there's something wrong on profiles, that's where those come from his analysis of the database. So yeah, I just want to point out that it's only updated once a week, so sometimes the data is a little bit out of date.
Greg,
Yeah.
I have a comment. It's just I find the Ask Alesh sessions are often he does think things fairly quickly for the comments are beyond me. So I find that I almost need a more basic version of that.
Play it at 50%, me.
No, it's just
that's
it's
not
just
that.
like if you haven't been watching from the very beginning, which I haven't,
Yes.
I just find that some of it it's like, okay, but where's the base? Like I can do a simple
Where's the
query.
base level? Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's Lisa talking, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's an excellent point. When we first started doing Ask Alesh, the first couple times, or maybe after the second time, I tried to go back and to start with some of the basic ones, and then we get questions, and often the questions ask for really complex things that for Alesh to dive into. And you're right,
Yeah.
sometimes you get into some really cool stuff, but is a little more complex. So I will try and try and remember that so that we can have a nice mix of
Yeah, it's just because I see him, I mean, because he knows it so well, it's his baby, he often goes through quite quickly through things.
Yeah.
And he'll slow down for some, but
right.
but
Yeah.
it can be, it's a very in-depth program, and you
Right.
can do complicated searches, but not everybody
Right.
needs to do that.
I'm just showing you what the screen looks like that. We won't go into details here, right, for this session, but I mean, we could talk about a little bit of WikiTree Plus in a future session.
It
Yes.
technically falls
okay?
under the apps project, sort of.
Yeah.
Because it uses
Yeah.
the same data that any apps project developer has access to, the data dumps.
That's
if
right.
you are an active WikiTreeer, you can request to have that data.
So
Okay.
So we could do a little intro to WikiTree Plus segment in one of our future tech Zoom chats, if that would be of interest.
I think it would be, especially to all the newts
and
others who don't use it very much.
I'm seeing a very someone who's definitely not a non-newt, or definitely a non-newt, giving me a thumbs up.
Oh, okay.
Over there. So
Lisa, it's Kathy. I'm right there with you that Alesh is, when he talks about things, he knows it so well. He's like over my head. And when you guys started, I said, please do the basics.
Yes.
We need a basics every so often, just because there's so many new people. Some haven't watched from the beginning. So
I know I haven't watched from the beginning.
Okay. What profile did you want me to start with?
It doesn't really matter, Greg, which one you start with. We're
Okay.
kind of running out of time, so
Okay.
mostly what I wanted to do is show your app and to show that you can jump to BioCheck from it.
Super. Okay. So here I'm on my own profile, and if I go into the tree apps section, is it large enough, zoomed in enough for people to see?
Yes.
Okay. When you go into tree apps, it'll load the default app. If you haven't been into tree apps recently, will be one of the it's one of the dynamic trees, I think. Or couple, I think it's the couples dynamic tree is the default one. But because I've most recently been in the fan chart, that's the one that loaded for me. So this is one of the apps that I've created. And because I have photos for most of my ancestors up to my second great grandparents, that's what you see there. And you can see there's some that I'm really wishing I could find some relatives to clean that up so that I would have a perfect fan chart. But when you click on any of these cells, then it pops up the information card, and if clicking on the person's name will take you to their profile page. So you can use the fan chart as basically your jumping off point, or your what's a springboard to quickly get to any one of your ancestors. And of course, you can quickly add more generations to it. And if you go to the settings, then there's lots of ways you can change settings. There's lots of options there for colors, adding places, names, lots of stuff. And if we want an in-depth tour of the fan chart at some point, then let me know, and we can do that. There are videos out there already with some of those. But let's go back to Caldwell again. It gives you sort of the basic bio information when in the pop-up card, but it also has a direct link to the BioCheck. And we click on that, and it will there's that message that Kay was talking about. If you're not logged in, it'll ask you to log in. So I'm going to click log in, and it'll log into the server, and then it will go into BioCheck and do a check for Caldwell, and I don't think there's anything. Examine one unique profile, found 0 styles issues. So that's good. I'm not totally positive that I have no style issues with any of my, well, I know there are issues, but I don't know which ones offhand to demonstrate, I'm afraid. But that's a quick way to get into BioCheck from any one of the profiles from the fan chart.
Now Greg, let's just do one more thing before we sign off here.
Yeah.
My menu. Yeah. So my menu is something that you can add in the WikiTree Browser Extension.
Mhm.
And he's showing you now how you do the selection. So you can pick any menu that's in your normal menus, and you can add it to my menu. And the reason you would do that is you might have a set of specific actions that you perform every morning, like I do. I've got 4 actions that I perform every morning when I first approach WikiTree, and so I put those in my menu, and it's just a convenient way for me to go and get those without having to go through the whole menu structure. And with that, I think we're going to wrap up. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to close, but we're just going to wrap up the recording of this session.